How many people in this talk today are product managers? If you guys can raise your hands. Okay, hang on 1 second here, having some technical difficulties. And how many people also work within an organization that is just now starting their cloud journey? Say with less than say 10 or 15 different production workloads running in the cloud. Okay, and is anyone here creating products on AWS, either directly on AWS or sold in conjunction with AWS? All right, great. Okay, so again, my name is Abhay Shah. I'm a senior product manager at JPMorgan Chase out of Chicago, and I'm in the commercial banking group within there. My primary focus today is actually working on an internal product, though previously in some other roles that I've had, I've actually had client-facing products as well. So, but right now I'm just working on some internal projects. Again, I've been working with a lot of big data solutions for about almost 20 years, believe it or not, well before they started calling it big data back in 2001. Back then, we were shipping data out on CDs. Then once we started filling up those CDs, believe it or not, we were sending out 2 CDs, and then we moved over to DVDs as well. So started shipping out DVDs around 2002, 2003. The engineers, product managers back then decided, hey, let's use the internet to start delivering this data as well. So had some real fun conversations with clients back then about clients that had actually shared T1 connections, because that was the big thing back then. Had some real fun conversations with them about why it was taking them 12 to 18 hours to download 8 gigs of data. So those were some rather interesting conversations. I've had frontline support roles for about 10, 11 years. About 6-7 years ago, I moved into product management at a financial services company and focused again on big data delivery, implementation, things like that. And a lot of the sales cycle was being held up by client reluctance on making investment in infrastructure, which really became a layup for selling AWS solutions. One thing that was really interesting for myself once I moved into product management was that my stakeholders changed a little bit. When I was in the frontline support teams, my stakeholders were pretty simple. I had the clients, I had a sales team that I was working with, and that was about it, right? Now, once I moved into a product management role, my stakeholders changed a little bit. I kind of categorized them into four different buckets, I guess. My first bucket, my developers. These are people that were developing solutions for me, with me. They were engineers to the core, and they were super interested in writing the code that I was asking them to write on. I also was actually working with internal infrastructure teams. Today, these groups or back then they were called cloud engineers, cloud teams. A lot of times these people were individuals that were tasked to hand out IAM permissions. They're basically these were very early stage conversations with the cloud team. Then also, because I was a product manager, because I was and still am a product manager, I worked with a lot of client-facing teams as well. This is global sales, support teams, people that were kind of talking to clients on a day-to-day basis, more or less selling my product. So with this team, I'm giving them training, providing support, product updates, knowledge, things like that as well. And then finally, I did have some interaction with large, impactful enterprise level clients. A lot of times these clients were, making a lot of noise. They wanted to hear directly from the product manager on our roadmaps, things like that. So I was interacting with them, getting on phone calls, just trying to understand what their roadmap is, and they were asking what our roadmap was as well. So again, I'm working with a lot of these different stakeholders, a lot of different technical capabilities and knowledge. About 5-6 years ago, I started hearing from our sales and support teams about, hey, there's this thing called AWS. We have some big clients that are moving out there. What do you know about it? And to be honest, I really didn't know a whole lot back then. Like, kind of knew it was out in the cloud. I thought it was pretty technical and all that. Was well beyond my understanding. Started digging into it. Started talking to some large enterprise clients that were that had made mention to me. They said, "Hey, look, in 5 years, we're shutting down all of our data centers, and we're moving out to the cloud." That completely floored me, because this was a client that I had worked with previously and respected quite a bit, and to hear that from them was actually pretty surprising. And to be honest, I got off that phone call, and I said they were off their rocker. I thought they were crazy for mentioning something like that. So I'm having these different conversations. I eventually ended up getting some of my product compatible with AWS as well, in a roundabout way. But throughout all of this as well, interacting with a lot of different AWS services, having gone to AWS summits, community days, user group meetups, reInvent. The certification track kind of crossed me more than once. And I thought I would share some of my thoughts on why I think it's important for product managers to go out and get certified. So I wrote down a couple of things here. So number one, I think what's most important as a product manager is to get your hands on these AWS products. And the certifications for me really help in that regard. Andrew May earlier today talked about all of the different certifications and tracks and stuff like that you can go down. I thought his talk was really good on actually studying for those certifications, but getting your hands dirty and using those products and stuff that's outside of your comfort zone as well. I'll admit I am very, very comfortable in relational databases. Certifications have got me a little bit out of my comfort zone with DynamoDB, Mongo, or DocumentDB, things like that as well. So becoming familiar and comfortable with those those products, because they could come up in different conversations, which I'll talk about in a little bit as well. Full disclosure as well, when actually I started studying for my first certification, the lowest tier was actually Solutions Architect Associate exam. The Cloud Practitioner was not introduced. So and to be honest, I probably would have taken the Cloud Practitioner and then just went ahead and sat for the Solutions Architect exam as well. But I'll say that also the number of exams is actually skyrocketed as well. I think when I sat for my first exam, there were only 6 or 7 exams, maybe a couple of specialties, but now there's like 12 or 13 exams. But again, really the big thing here is getting your hands dirty, creating your own VPCs, spinning up your first EC2 instances, S3 buckets, hosting sites on S3 buckets, a lot of stuff that perhaps might get you out of your comfort zone. We all do stuff on our day-to-day job that we're really comfortable with, we know really well, but I really felt like the certifications kind of elevated my knowledge base, my breadth of knowledge. the second big point that I thought about was, uh, at the time my company was extremely new on the cloud conversation, on the cloud journey. Um, so this allowed me basically studying for the exam and mentioning that, yeah, I know AWS products and services, things like that, allowed me more or less a seat at the table, um, for conversations around, hey, how should we hand out IAM permissions? Who requires permissions? Do we need any manual overrides to to our permissions that we hand out? So these are conversations with perhaps internal infrastructure teams, or perhaps with the, if you're making conversation with your internal sales teams as well, on why you should sell my product on using AWS. Um, so again, the knowledge that you gain from the certifications kind of helped me along the way to facilitate some of those conversations. Um, Number three is with the clients themselves as well. I've been on a ton of phone calls with clients, asking, hey, what is your company's roadmap out on AWS? We're serverless, or we'd like to do S3 to S3 file transfers. How does that work? What are you guys thinking about? We may or may not have anything on that roadmap, but being able to basically translate that internally to say, hey, here's a big client that is requesting this functionality from us. We need to figure out what our roadmap is here. So I'll have a ton of those types of conversations. I also had conversations with clients that were like, look, the sales guy that we just spoke with did a pretty good job in telling us a little bit about AWS. We're somewhat interested in it. Why should we use it? So I inevitably became, I hate to say it, I became an AWS spokesperson, a salesperson, where I was selling some of these AWS AWS services, trying to talk them into it. Again, getting your hands dirty and kind of feeling comfortable with the products, being able to speak about them, really helped in those conversations. And ultimately, clients were able to buy my product because of that comfort level as well. And they were able to basically spin up some services, test our product, and then either stay on AWS or bring that on-prem. And actually, last but not least, one of the huge benefits of certifications, I actually didn't hear this from Andrew, was you do get lounge access at reInvent. And the local AWS summit. So there is a fancier lounge at reInvent that has a little bit more seating and drinks and cookies and things like that as well. So anyway, so in conclusion, I would say that if you're developing AWS solutions today as a product manager and you're having a lot of these internal and external conversations with clients, go ahead and spend the time, get certified. We did mention that, or Andrew mentioned that, there's a lot of different prep providers out there. You can also read white papers, things like that. But I think the prep providers are great. They do a great job as well in just preparing you for the exam. And ultimately, these certifications will help you frame your discussions with your stakeholders properly. Great. Thank you so much.